Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. For those of you that haven't joined the session yet, we are going to be using Vevox throughout, and there's some joining instructions up on the screen at the moment. I'm joined on the webinar today with my colleague Matthew Kelly, who's product manager for Vevox, and yeah, we're going to be running through a bit of a session around our PowerPoint add-in. So we had an update, quite a big update to the PowerPoint add-in over the summer. And now everyone's kind of getting back to work, getting back to school. We thought we would host a webinar to have a look at some of those new features, but a bit like we did with our the last session that we ran back in June. Also, an opportunity to have a look again at the PowerPoint add-in and show you guys how it can be used and yeah, how sort of powerful it is. So really quick agenda for today. We're going to have a quick look at those new features that have been incorporated into the PowerPoint add-in. That Matt's going to take over and give a really thorough overview of the PowerPoint add-in and just demonstrate how you can very quickly incorporate it into an existing presentation and yeah, bring that PowerPoint to life, but also an opportunity to show off some of those new features that you may not be aware of or may be new to you. And at the end, we'll take time to go through some Q&A. So as well as using Vevox for polling like we did earlier on, and we're going to be doing throughout, we'll also be using it for Q&A. So if you open up the Q&A board within there, you can ask us questions. Please do ask those questions throughout, and then what we will do is at the end we will take our time to answer as many of those as possible. So before I hand over to Matt, I'm just going to ask you a really quick polling question, if that's okay. So the question is, how much do you know about the Vevox PowerPoint add-in? And that ranges from knowing absolutely nothing to being a seasoned professional and having presented with it multiple times. So yeah, please do respond to that. I'm going to do likewise. That's fantastic. I can see we've got most people responding to that. So that's great. Anyone still joining late, the joining instructions for the Vevox app are still on the screen. So just go to vevox.app on a web browser on your phone and enter that meeting ID on screen. Okay, let's close that poll, Matt, if that's okay. Oh, fantastic. So a really nice range, and actually it's quite encouraging to see almost 50% of people suggesting they know nothing or they've heard about it but possibly haven't used it before. So I think this session will be a really nice sort of introduction for them, but because we're going to be looking at some of the new features, it's definitely relevant to people that have used it before but perhaps haven't used it in the last month, because those new features will be there. So what are those new features? So we've improved the login process within PowerPoint to allow for single sign-on authentication. So anyone at an institution or a company using single sign-on authentication for their Vevox account will know that previously had to generate an authentication code from the dashboard. We've now improved that so that actually you can go straight in using your SSO credentials through the PowerPoint add-in. We've also brought in the leaderboards for quizzes that have proved really popular in our in the online dashboard present view of Vevox. So yeah, great for adding some interactivity and some quizzing to your presentations. Hand in hand with that, we've also added a new correct answer type for open text polls. So the ability to create one word or short sentence answers for correct answers for open text polls, and award a correct answer accordingly for that. And we've also made some enhancements to the word cloud polling in terms of sort of positioning that on the slide, and allowing you to make your slides look really good with that. So that's what's new. Matt is going to show you all of that as well as plenty more. Matt, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Joe. So yeah, as Joe said, we'll be running through a bit of a general overview of the main features of the PowerPoint add-in and calling out some of those new improvements as we go. So I'm going to get straight into it. And in order to do that, what I'm going to do is start off with a brand new, fresh PowerPoint presentation. So you can see, obviously, I'm just in this one here that we've been running, but I'm just going to create a new blank presentation. And if you just bear with me, what I'm also going to do is just log out of this, so we can just go through the login process. So I'm just up here on our Vevox ribbon at the top of PowerPoint. I'm just going to quickly log out of there and just step through that login process. So bear with me as I just copy my details across. So I'll pop my email address in and just paste my password in as well and hit the login button. And that's the nothing groundbreaking there. That's the login process. Now, again, just to call out what Joe was saying there about the SSO login. So if you are part of one of the a larger organization or university, you might be using single sign-on through your company or university portal. Now, if that's the case, when you enter your email address and hit next, it should send you off to your company or university portal to authenticate. And then once you've done that, it will bring you back here to this next step that I'm on. And that is selecting which meeting I want to connect my PowerPoint add-in to. So I'm going to connect it here to this one at the top, which is the one that you have all joined in this meeting. So I'll just select that and hit connect. And then we can see at the top here, I've got a little symbol with a little green tick to indicate I'm connected, and it's telling me what meeting I'm connected to. It's worth just mentioning at this point about the PowerPoint integration that it is an add-on in the sense that it's an add-on to PowerPoint, but also, it's an add-on to the Vevox product. So it's not a completely standalone thing, the PowerPoint integration. It does rely on some dashboard usage as well. So you'll have seen there, I've connected to a meeting that we've already created on our Vevox dashboard. And you can't create meetings throughout the PowerPoint add-in. You have to create the meeting on your dashboard first, and then connect your PowerPoint to that meeting in the same way you as participants use the app to connect to a meeting. So we can see here I am connected, and the first thing I'm going to do is get started with putting some polls in here. So first thing I'm going to do is come up here to the add poll slide, and Joe has, already asked sort of the best starting question that I wanted to use at the start of this presentation. So I'm just going to do exactly the same question, but just put it in here as an example, so you can see how that was done. And we're doing this question type because, we want to get a feel for the audience, or what the audience knows about the topic that we are discussing. So I'm just going to paste these in as the question title and paste in my options. So those are the same options that we had before, and simply click add. And then once I do that, we can see this has created a slide in my PowerPoint deck with that information on, and a bit of representation of what we can expect those result bars to look like. Now, I'm just going to take a little bit of time here just to click into the slide so we can see what's going on. So when I do click on it, you can see immediately we've got this surrounding box that's coming around that sort of encompasses all of my voting options. And then when I actually click into these, we can see I'm selecting, the actual individual items, and these are, PowerPoint text boxes, PowerPoint shapes. So it's all, integrated into what PowerPoint uses. If I just grab this surrounding box that I had before, you can see I can sort of resize this and reposition it on the screen. And when I do that, it automatically adapts the content to fit within it. Also, just very quickly, I'm just going to come up here again on my PowerPoint ribbon. We've got this thing called display options. So this is just a few extra things you can do with the slide. So very quickly, if I just pull this out slightly, we can see things like showing the results obviously is switched on by default, but potentially you might want to ask a question and not display the results to your participants. So you can toggle that off so the result doesn't appear. We have a few other options here, such as average, that are related to some of the other poll types. And just if I come down as well, some other editing options. So for example, here I can select all shapes, and maybe I want to select all the bars. So that's automatically selected all the bars in here for me. And then using my PowerPoint controls, I can do stuff like, adjust the color of those bars as well. Now, the other useful, or the last useful one I just want to really call out to attention here is this bottom one, which is reset to default. So I'm just going to quickly press that, and that's going to undo all of those edits and just create it back in that default state that we had just as I'd entered it in there. Next up, I'm going to add in another question. So if I again come back to my Vevox ribbon and add in another poll, this time I'm going to add in a word cloud poll, and it's here we go. I'll paste it in. Just a very straightforward generic. What are you looking for? Or sorry, where are you looking forward to going on holiday next year? And I'm going to add that in. So again, as before, we can see it's put that question on there. Now, again, when I click into the slide, we can see we've got this sort of surrounding box. Now, this is the area where my word cloud is going to populate on the slide. I can see that's just overlapping the title a bit, so I'm going to drag that down. But again, we can resize this this window, but we recommend you obviously keep it as large as possible so that the word cloud appears as large and readable as possible when the results come up. Now, just worth calling out here that this is a slight change, or this is one of the improvements with this current version of the add-in. So we've made some improvements to this word cloud. So previously, you didn't get this this surrounding box before you'd asked your question. So some people would get a little bit confused. They weren't sure where the word cloud was going to appear, and particularly we had some issues if you're using a slightly different slide layout or slide dimensions to the default Microsoft settings. Sometimes people would find that their word cloud was appearing in different places, or not in the middle of the slide as you'd expect. But we should have ironed all those issues out now. And of course, you can actually check beforehand this bounding box as to where your word cloud is going to appear. So that's just one of the new additions I wanted to highlight. Moving on again, and well, to another new addition that dashboard users will hopefully be aware of, and that is the leaderboard feature. We brought that in a few months ago into the dashboard, and we've also just brought that in recently into PowerPoint to do the same as well. But before we do that, we need to actually have some quiz-style questions in here so that the leaderboard can actually have something to generate off. So again, I'm just going to add in a few questions. I'm going to pick my first one and paste that in here. So my question is, who was the last US president to only serve a single term in office? And I'll pop in the responses there. So we've got Reagan, Bush Senior, Clinton, and Bush Junior. The difference here, obviously, we're wanting to do this as part of a quiz. So I'm going to press the Set Correct Answer button. So once I do that, I can select which one I want to set as the correct answer. Now, the correct answer is, of course, George Bush, the senior. And I'll click Add. And we can see that populates onto the slide. And the other thing is here, we've got a little tick to signify that is the correct answer. Now, just so you're all aware, that's an animation. So that will appear after the result is displayed. So obviously, when we're running this for our audience, they wouldn't see that beforehand. One thing I'm just going to do here, just to make this slide a little bit nicer, as we kind of looked at before, I'm going to bring my results in slightly, and I'll just drag this in so you can see what I'm doing here. I've got a few images here. I'm just going to make this appear a little bit nicer. So when we display the correct answer, I'm going to bring in this image of George Bush. So I've put that on the slide. What I just want to do is go over to my animation and bring out the animation pane. Let's close that. And I'm going to add an animation onto this image. So let's just fade it in. And if I look at my animations here, it's this picture, and I'm going to want this to appear with the previous animation, which is of course the tick. So I'm going to say start with previous. So when I run this slide, we'll ask the poll, the results will appear, and when I show the correct answer, the picture of George Bush will display as well. So I'm going to close that there and move on to the next question. This time, I'm just going to do this slightly differently. I'm going to insert a new blank slide. And now I'm going to put in the next question. So just another straightforward, simple one. What is Lionel Messi's release fee? So I don't know if people are probably aware that this was in the news in the last week or so. He wanted to break free from his contract, from his only club he's ever played for. What was the price of that release fee? Now, obviously, as we can see, I've just put this normally into a PowerPoint slide. And what I'm going to show here is just a nice little feature we have, which is this convert to poll. So we obviously have our title and then our content boxes. And when I press convert to poll, what that does is it brings up my poll as before, but it's automatically read in those options from the slide, and I'm good to go with it. One thing, obviously, I still need to do is set that correct answer, which is, of course, 700 million euros. And I will add that. And again, just to make it look a little bit nicer, I'm going to bring in an image as I did before. Oops, grab the right object, move that over there. So this time I don't need to animate this after the answer, because obviously this is the topic of the question. So I'm just going to leave this in there without any animation. And I'm going to do the same again. So I'm going to put in another question. And this time my question is just a simple, who is this? I'm going to get rid of this text box because I don't need it. And again, I'm going to come up to my Vevox tab on the ribbon and press convert to poll. Actually, sorry, I missed a step there. The who is this? And there's my image. That's what I'm intending to put on the slide. So now I will come up and convert to poll. I'm going to make this a text-based question. So again, as Joe was saying at the start, this is another new feature we've got, and that's the ability to set correct answers for text-based questions. So here I will hit the set correct answer, and the answer is, of course, Mario. One nice little thing we've got here as well is the ability to have multiple correct answers. So I'm guessing some of my respondents might type in Super Mario, so I'm going to put that in there as well as an alternative. So either one of those will count as that correct answer. Just to clarify again on these correct answers, the case doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter that it's a capital M. When people enter it in, it sort of disregards the case. They just need to have the spelling correct. So I'm going to add that one in. Now we can see, again, my animation is coming over the top of my image. What I'm going to do here is just change this text box slightly. So I'm right-clicking on this, and I'm going to go to Format the Shape. And I'm going to fill this box with white, but I'm just going to put a little bit of transparency on it as well. So when this animates in, we'll be able to see it over the top of the image. It's worth pointing out again that when we do the text-based answers, we don't display any of the text responses on the screen. We just bring in this telling people what the correct answer is or was, and how many participants answered that correctly. So there is the correct, there's the text question. Okay, let me just check my notes. We have our questions in there. I'm only going to leave it at just those 3 for the moment to save on a bit of time. But as we just said before, I want to bring in a leaderboard. So to do that, I'm going to come up here to this add analysis slide and press on that. And we get this little analysis slide wizard come up here. So analysis slides are essentially ones that recall data from other slides in your presentation. So we can see here we have a few different types. We've got a comparison one, where maybe you want to compare the results of 2 polls, a recall one. So perhaps, as I said before, if you've hidden the result from your audience earlier on, and then you want to recall it and display it to them later on, you can choose one of those. We also have the totals one. So this is if you've got perhaps, if you've asked the same poll a number of times and you just want to combine all of those results into one total slide, we can do that there. But the one we're interested in right now is this leaderboard. So when I click that, we can give it a title. I'm just going to leave it as leaderboard. We can see a quick summary here of the slides that it's going to include in this leaderboard. So we've only got 3 correct answer questions, and the number of positions we want to display on that leaderboard. Again, I'm just going to leave that as the default settings and press add. So here again, it's created that leaderboard, and excuse me, and we can see just roughly what that looks like. And again, this is just PowerPoint objects again, so this is just a table, and it's going to come up with the position, the participants, and the score they got. And we also just include the total number of participants and the average score as well.
I'm expecting to see quite a few in first place, Matt, as you've already shown them all the answers.
Yes, well, that's given here, I suppose. It's not a very good quiz, this one, as we're obviously seeing the whole setup of it, and we've all seen what the correct answers are. But as we do step through it, maybe it would be nice if a few people did get 1 or 2 wrong, but that doesn't matter too much. So we've got the leaderboard in there. Now, the last thing I want to do in this presentation is another analysis slide, and that's a comparison slide. So I think we asked this question at the start for a good reason, because we want to hopefully see if or ask it again at the end and see if the audience have shifted in their opinion based on the topic of discussion. So what I'm going to do that is I'm going to make a copy of this slide. So to do that, I'm just going to press Control D on my keyboard. That's just a shortcut key which duplicates a slide. Again, that's nothing fancy with Vevox. That's just a PowerPoint shortcut key. So we can see here on the side, it's duplicated that slide. Now I'm going to drag this down to the bottom, because obviously we're asking it first at the top, and then we're going to be asking it secondly at the bottom. Now, here is where I'm going to deviate a little bit because of the manner in which we're sort of doing this demonstration. Now, obviously, Joe has already asked this question to us all at the start of this session, so it seems a little bit pointless of me when I do run through this asking it again. So what I'm going to do here is jump back to the original presentation that we asked this question in before, and I'm going to just copy that slide. And now if I again just jump back to this new presentation I'm making, come up here, I'm going to paste that slide into this. So we've actually got the slide we asked with the results in the earlier in the meeting in here. So this one that I created as a bit of a demo isn't technically needed anymore. So I'm actually just going to delete that one. So we've got the first question now with those results in it from when we actually asked it. And then the second
I really like the fact that you can do that, and it's something that I probably didn't appreciate enough myself. Is that the fact that you can obviously pull in some questions that you've perhaps asked in a different cohort of students, or if you're running an annual meeting and you want to compare the results from 1 year to the next, or if you're running sort of weekly or monthly town halls and you want to sort of see a shift in opinion or anything like that. The comparison doesn't all have to be in the same presentation. The fact is you can run one presentation, cut out the one of the questions from a previous slide, and then run it again. And as you're about to demonstrate, compare the two results. So it's really nice.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right, and it's it's a good point to mention there that you can take that result from a different slide deck and put it in here. You do have to have that within your slide deck though in order to run that comparison. So if I just come up now and add this analysis slide, like I said, we're going to do one of these comparison ones. So the first poll is that one that's in slide position 2. So that's the one that already has the result in, and I'm going to compare it with this one down here, which is slide 8. So the second instance of the poll. I don't need to change any of these labels. So this is going to come up, telling us which was the first vote, which was the second vote. And I'm going to press add on that. And we can see that's added this in here. So after that second poll, I'll be able to move on to this comparison slide and be able to display both. And we can see the key there, blue for the first vote, orange for the second vote. One thing, the very last thing, so my presentation is almost complete. And the very last thing I want to add in here is an instruction slide for my participants. So obviously when we started this presentation, Joe was reading out the instructions of how to join this meeting. One thing we can do, so let's come up to the top here. On our ribbon, we have this instruction slide option. So I'm going to press that, and this will automatically populate a basic template of an instruction slide, just telling people where they can go or how they can access the meeting at vevox.app, providing them with the ID number so that they'll be able to join that meeting as well. And that is my presentation complete. Just to tidy it up a little bit, I don't need this blank slide in at the start. Like I said, we've already run this question earlier in the session. So when I run through it in a moment, I don't actually want to display this slide anymore. So I'm just going to right click on that and hide this slide so that will be hidden when we step through this presentation. So without further ado, let's go into my slideshow. So I don't need to labour the point and go through this. I think we're all sort of connected to the meeting now, but this is a good practice to have for your audience so they know how to actually join the interactivity through Vevox. I'll move on to my next slide. So as we said, that first poll I've hidden because we've already asked it, so that's not going to come up. So we're straight on to our word cloud slide. So I will open that now. So I should have opened that a second ago. So people can start sending in their responses. Probably worth mentioning here, I forgot to mention actually just before I opened this, we've got this in the top left-hand corner, what we call our sort of vote prompt. And this is for the benefit of you, the presenter. So it was saying, I think, press enter to open the poll, which I did, and I can see the responses coming in. So I've had 80 responses. It's telling me that there's 119 people connected to the Vevox app. So we've got quite a lot of those in. I'm just going to close that now. That's just a press of enter to close that poll. And in a few seconds, we should get the word cloud. And yes, anywhere. I'm not sure if that's probably not too much of a surprise there, is it, Joe? I think everybody's feeling that at the moment.
No, I had a feeling that might be the biggest response.
Spain, Italy, and France up there. The back garden, I quite like that one. That's probably going to be me as well. So let's step on through. So here we are with our first of those quiz questions. So I will open that and people can respond. As we said before, we know from when I was setting this up, we've got some animations coming in here. So I'm just going to close that now in the interest of time. So there's the result. And then I can say, okay, most people seem to have put George H.W. Bush. Let's bring up the correct answer. And there we go. It is, of course, George Bush, the older one. Moving on to my next question. So what was Lionel Messi's release fee? So again, nothing particularly special here. We've just got that image in there just to make the slide a little bit more interesting. I can see we've had a lot of responses, so I'll just close that again. There are all our answers. And of course, we know the correct answer is 700 million euros. And then lastly, our text-based one. So who is this? So I'll give you all a couple more seconds just to type this one out. So obviously when you do type it, remember to hit send on your devices to send that response through. And lots of answers there. And I will close. And there we go. The correct answers are Mario or Super Mario. And I can see just over 62% participants answered that one correctly. And then let's move on to our leaderboard. So as I was saying before about that vote prompt in the top corner, we can see it's telling me press enter to reveal those scores. So that I shall do. And we have, unsurprisingly, a tie with 29% participants all scoring 3 out of 3. I am not sure if that's actually gone quite right. I was expecting to see a second and third on there as well. We can see we had a total of 114 participants, so I will have to figure out where our other participants have vanished to on that slide. But I think one point here worth noticing, or worth noting, which if you're present at any of our other webinars where we talked about the leaderboard, this is an anonymous meeting, so nobody's identified in this. So it's just telling us the number of participants that achieved that place. If this, of course, was an identified meeting, we'd be seeing the names of participants appearing in here, and these would, just appear in these lines, and these boxes would expand to fit those in. One of the reasons why we recommend perhaps trying not to put too many places on the scoreboard is so that there's not too many names that do appear on there. And obviously, when I'm running a quiz that's only got a few questions in it, we're very likely to get lots of ties there. My very last one was the second poll. So as we said at the start, so Joe has already asked this question to you. I'm going to be asking this question again now. So how much do you know about the PowerPoint adding? Hopefully we won't be getting too many people saying nothing or I've heard about it. And let's just close that poll now. So there are our results, and I'm going to go straight ahead to our before and after comparison. So thankfully, we can see the shift in knowledge there, where the first vote, we obviously had a lot of people in the nothing, and I've heard about it. And most of those people, as expected now, moving into the option 3, which is the never used it, but you've got a fairly good idea. So was that was my last one. So there we go to the end of my presentation. Now, just a couple of little things at the end here. Obviously, we can see all of my results are stored in my slides, in my slide deck. These are also stored in your online dashboard, which you can access through the PowerPoint add-in, provided you're logged in. So it knows, once you're logged in, it knows what your personal dashboard is. So if I press that dashboard button, here we go. It's just opened up in a browser window into my meeting, and I can go to my data tab down here. And in my data tab, so it's given us a bit of a summary of the number of people that have joined. But I can see the results of all of these polls, the word cloud ones that we did, and then all of these voting polls in here as well. These are just image results of those polls. The sort of valuable thing perhaps to get here, if you are interested in the breakdown of your data, you can download that data report, which will download as an Excel report, and you can interrogate that for a further breakdown of all of those results. If I just quickly jump back into my PowerPoint presentation, and I guess the last thing, sorry, the wrong presentation, it was this one. The last thing to point out that's obviously very important is saving this. So like I said, all those results are saved and stored in your dashboard. But as we were talking about, if we want to use any of these, reuse these results for a comparison in a meeting, next week or the week after or the year after, we do need these slides still with that result in it. So important thing, don't forget to save your presentation. Let me just save this to my desktop, and I'll just call it my quick quiz. Already exists. There we go. And that is hopefully a bit of a good overview of the main features of the PowerPoint add-in. And I think I sort of called out the new features where I could as we stepped through it. So Joe, over to you for the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I think that's a really good demonstration of just how quick and easy it is to create a really engaging Vevox PowerPoint deck from scratch. But it's worth noting, obviously, you can create it from scratch like that in a brand new presentation. You can add all of those things into an existing presentation that you might already have as well. Okay, we are we're a little bit short of time, and we've got loads of great questions that have come in. So we're going to have to rattle through these, and I don't think we're going to get to answer all of them, Matt. But this one that came in that's got sort of the most liked here is, can you import polls already created in the Vevox web account to PowerPoint, or do you have to create each poll again individually to have them in the PowerPoint presentation? So yeah, you can't import them if they're already created in the dashboard. You would probably have to, if you've got the question already written out, is just copy and paste the text from that, a bit like Matt was doing earlier on, into the question creating wizard, or just drop them in as plain text into the slides and then do a convert to poll using that button. I don't know if you've got anything to add to that.
I mean, it's and it's a great question, and I think we've had a few bits of feedback around this. I think the ability to grab polls that are already in your dashboard and bring them into PowerPoint is a valuable one, and I think that's something we definitely want to investigate and look into in the future to allow that to be two-way rather than one-way.
Cool. There's a question on here, and actually I noticed there was a second question about Microsoft Teams. So maybe about can you use the Vevox app within Microsoft Teams? I think we'll address both those questions. So can I get Vevox to work when presenting a PowerPoint in MS Teams via sharing from OneDrive? So you can't do it through sharing on OneDrive. You have to do, or you do similar to what we're doing here in Zoom, where we're sharing our screen and sharing the presentation on screen. When PowerPoint are presented and shown on or shown through Microsoft Teams, actually a lot of the functionality within PowerPoint generally is lost, and that includes the animations that sort of build up our PowerPoint slides as well. So yeah, you need to share your screen rather than presenting them through through sort of OneDrive on Microsoft Teams. Sorry, Matt, looked like you were going to say something.
Yeah, just to add to that, and I'm not quite sure, but I think the way that MS Teams works when you're sort of sharing PowerPoint presentations through it, I believe it uses the sort of PowerPoint online version, and that's the reason why. So our PowerPoint add-in currently only works with the sort of the native PowerPoint version. It unfortunately doesn't work with the online PowerPoint version, and I think that's the reason why there.
Cool. And just to lead on to the second question I mentioned that I saw was, can I connect to a meeting on Microsoft Teams? Yes, you can. So we've got a Microsoft Teams app sitting in the Microsoft Teams store that you can add to any channel or any channel and team within Microsoft Teams. So it's a really nice way of incorporating the Vevox app for the participant, so student audience, to be able to respond through that, potentially using it for for asking questions and Q&A in an anonymous fashion rather than an identified way that Microsoft Teams would do, perhaps because you can have the same Vevox session assigned to multiple channels, using it as a bridge between breakout rooms for people to be able to submit ideas and comments, being able to send out sort of company-wide surveys, and be able to announce there's a Vevox poll for you to complete, and people to be able to go straight in through the Teams environment and complete that within there. So yes, there is a Microsoft Teams app. There's and there'll be sort of more information about that on our help site for people to sort of be able to go away and look at. Sorry, I didn't hide that. Next one here. So sorry, a basic question, but how do I set up the Vevox function / plugin in PowerPoint? I currently don't have it.
Just quickly interject here. You can download the PowerPoint add-in from our website. I don't have the link available, but as I'm here and it's very quick, if you go to our website and in the Why Vevox down to PowerPoint voting, we have a link here where you can download the add-in and you can install that on your machine. And then once you've done that, you should see what I was demonstrating earlier with Vevox being part of that PowerPoint ribbon. So hopefully that was a very quick but useful answer to that question.
Yeah, that's good. I like Joe's beard. Yeah, thank you. Do you have the ability to show the Q&A board within PowerPoint? Matt, you look like you're about to answer that.
Yeah. So no, we don't have that ability at the moment. We understand the desire to be able to do this, but at the moment, our PowerPoint add-in is really it's the polling side of things. It's not currently a feature we've got in there. One thing you can do is you can add a hyperlink in your PowerPoint slide deck to the present view. So you can click that button from your slide deck and it will open a browser and take you to the Q&A. And the way we manage this in our presentations here is just flicking between the obviously you saw here, this is my web browser, and flicking between this and the PowerPoint itself. So yeah, I think just to reiterate that, we recognise people's desire to have that Q&A board in there. I think that's something we'd like to investigate more.
Yeah, something just to sort of add to that as well is I would say it's probably sort of good practice to if you're just doing PowerPoint polling is to maybe consider having the Q&A switched off, which you can do from the dashboard at the click of a button, or have moderation switched on, so that if you're running through your PowerPoint presentation and asking polls, people are focused on doing that and not sending in Q&A that you might not be focusing on at that time. Couple of things here. So the voting data travels with the slide. I think that was with the when you took the question I asked earlier and plonked that in. Yeah, that's really nice. Question here: is there a profanity filter? So yes, there is on the word cloud. So yeah, there is a.
So word cloud and text-based questions do have a profanity filter on there. We've got sort of quite a lot of profanities that it's blocking out there. If you come across words that are getting through that you would rather didn't, by all means get in touch with us. I think that's something we'd definitely like to sort of progress a little bit further about how people can manage those profanities on their own a bit more. But yes, there is a profanity filter on there, and actually within your dashboard you are able to switch the profanity filter off in your meeting if you it's under the settings, I think, if you don't want that profanity filter to be used.
Cool. Matt, I'm really conscious of the time, and it's just gone 2:45. I was wondering whether we stay on here and just answer a few more questions before we finish. But I appreciate that some people might sort of need to go. So before people go, we just want to let you know that we're going to be running a series of fun virtual pub quizzes between now and Christmas that we'd love people to be able to attend. So I'm just going to post out a link in the message board for people to be able to register for those if they'd like to sort of register and come along to them. Also, if you have got to go now, thank you very much for coming. We are recording the session, so you'll be able to access that. And I think if we just stay on for another 5 minutes, Matt, and maybe just get through a few more questions.
Yeah.
And also there's a survey within the Vevox app as well, so please do go in there and complete those. Cool. Okay, let me get back to it. Fantastic. Do you have recordings of other webcasts like these? They're great, and this is my first. Yeah, we do. They're all, I think the entire kind of back catalogue of webcasts and webinars and training videos, everything we've recorded can all be found on our YouTube channel. So yeah, do go and visit that. And actually, I wonder whether one of my colleagues to just post the link to the YouTube channel on the chat window as well. That might be helpful. Cool. I've already had a look at that question. Like the new features, that's great. Can the voting function be used by a student based in China? I want to say yes, but Matt, I don't know whether you've got a more sort of definitive answer.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult one. I mean, the answer is yes for the most part. Unfortunately, with the way some of the things work in China, behind the Great Firewall, as it were, sometimes it's not usually a case of it being blocked, but it's a case of, because it's having to go through extra security protocols, things can be a little bit slower when passing through those. So sometimes it might not be quite as responsive for people in China. And again, I think that varies on where they are in China, because I know there's some cities where things are a little bit more relaxed with internet traffic. But I mean, the short answer to that is yes, there should be, but they might come across a few sort of speed issues.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of I work with a couple of universities who have campuses out in China, and they use Vevox out there, and they use it for sessions where people might be joining a session from all around the world, including China, and it works absolutely fine. But as you say, Matt, it's not a it's not a sort of a blanket rule that you can just apply to the whole country. So I would say that it's probably just what if you're able to just sort of test it out beforehand and just sort of check the words. But yes, it should do. Question here. So is it supported on PowerPoint on an Apple laptop? I think there was another question as well about sort of Mac support. Matt, again, Matt, looks like you're about to answer that one.
Yeah, sure. So currently, no. Unfortunately, at the moment, our PowerPoint add-in, I think, as I said before, it only works with the sort of the native Windows version of PowerPoint. So it doesn't work on a Mac, and it doesn't work on PowerPoint Online. Now, I mean, I know some people on their Macs use sort of emulators to emulate a Windows environment, and it would work through there, but that's not obviously something that everyone has the ability to do. And again, we understand the sort of the demand for this, and people with Macs and wanting to do this, and we do investigate it, and it's on our sort of agenda. I think in developing an add-in that works, on a Mac, I think we'd take a slightly different approach to it, because obviously the environment, like I said, the native Windows environment that allows our PowerPoint add-in to work is very different to the Mac environment. So it's a completely different sort of programming language, as it were. But yes, we do want to make that available, and like I said, to be able to work with stuff like Microsoft Online as well. But unfortunately, we can't really give a timeline on that at the moment. But that is certainly something that's that we're aware of, and is something we'd like to progress and do.
Cool, fantastic, Matt. I think we've got time for probably one more question. I fully appreciate there's probably loads of questions on there we haven't answered. If someone has asked the question, sorry, they really want to get the answer from us. Please can you contact us, for our sort of contact and support channels, because more than happy to get back to you on that.
So just very quickly looking at what's on the board here, I think that first question, or the one that's at the top there, we answered that earlier on.
Yeah, I saw this question that was just a couple down, so I was just going to pick this one out. So can we edit the Vevox PowerPoint template so it matches our corporate template, and the vote button isn't always over the logo?
So yes, you can. So the way our PowerPoint add-in works, it kind of works with your PowerPoint template, so with your sort of slide master. Now, this is perhaps where it gets a little bit technical and out of the realms of a lot of people and their sort of understanding of PowerPoint. But if you are familiar with PowerPoint slide masters, you can edit your sort of master template in order to accommodate or to get the Vevox slides matching in with your template a little bit better. To a certain extent, it should do a lot of that stuff. We try to make it do a lot of that stuff automatically for you. But yeah, you can play around with that PowerPoint template. Interesting one here, though, actually, about specifically asking about the vote button sitting over the logo. So I actually think that's one of the vote button is one of the few things that always appears in that top right corner. Now, you can manually move that, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look. I don't think that actually is part of the master template. So that might be something that you have to manually do per slide, but we can check that one for you. And if you want perhaps to know a little bit, I'm not sure obviously who this is, if you want to know a little bit more about how to edit the slide master, say, by all means, get in touch with us at hello@vevox.com, and we can perhaps have that sort of conversation.
I mean, one of the things you can do, as well, so rather than having to move it every single time on, each of your, your polling slides, if each of your, polls is of a, similar type and a sort of the way it's displayed on the on the slide is similar, i.e., just a series of multiple choice questions, you can move it once on the first one and then copy and paste that slide and just edit the edit the question within it, but then at least your box is all in the right place and
that's right,
stuff like that. So cool. Okay, Matt, it is now 5 to 3. Let us end it there. As I say, please get in touch with us, for our support channels, if we haven't managed to get around to answering your questions. Please also sign up for the virtual pub quiz. It'd be great to see you on those. I think we're running, I think sort of 4 or 5, between now and Christmas. Each one was sort of a different kind of theme. So yeah, really looking forward to that. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and yeah, look forward to sort of seeing you all very soon.
Thank you.